Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I call to order the public hearing for the 2026 Regional Transportation Plan, the Federal Fiscal Year 2027 to 2032 Transportation Improvement Program, and the Air Quality Conformity Determination. My name is Ryan Tomto. I'm a principal here at CMAP and today's presider on behalf of the agency and its board. Thank you all for taking the time to participate. Your engagement is deeply appreciated. So I have a lot of my colleagues are standing by to welcome you and help facilitate your participation today. Anyone wearing a CMAP tag is available to assist you. If you have any questions about the plan, we have subject matter experts in the room who can speak with you individually off to the side. Can I have you raise your hands? So if you do have questions, we're trying to keep the space focused on providing public comments so we can use the time that way. But if you do have questions, these folks are the people you should reach out to. Let's see here. Assistive listening devices are available upon request. Just see the folks out at the front table in the hallway. Restrooms are through that door in the back. You'll also find coffee and water in our lobby out there. So this next part, I'm going to make sure I read exactly as written, so we have it documented for our records. CMAP published notice of this public hearing in the Chicago Sun-Times on June 12th, 2026. Included the hearing in agency newsletters on June 16th, June 29th, and July 15th, and shared details on the CMAP website and social media channels. Public notice was also posted in CMAP's lobby and through its agenda management site in compliance with the Illinois Open Meetings Act. It was also shared by numerous implementation and civic partners. Draft materials for the RTP, the TIP, and conformity determination were available for public review and comment from June 12th through July 31st. This public hearing is a state and federally required opportunity for the public to provide verbal comments on the draft plan. All feedback we receive today will be added to the full set of public comments. After the hearing, CMAP staff will carefully review all input, both what was submitted through the public comment period, as well as comments offered today. And we'll use that feedback to refine the final plan and to inform decision makers as our board and MPO policy committee consider the plan for adoption in October. I just want to add, though, to this is more than just a box checking opportunity to meet those federal and state requirements. The regional planning process is fundamentally about people, our communities, how we move through those communities, and how we work with one another to make them better. So really appreciate everybody taking the time out of your day to come down to our offices or join online to be here today. Genuinely appreciate it. Know you all will have significant feedback to provide, but we very much welcome you here and appreciate you taking the time. So with that, I also want to just provide a few opening remarks. Through the public comment period, we received substantial feedback about North DeSable Lakeshore Drive. So I wanted to share a couple updates and clarifications around that to help potentially streamline public comments. So as many people know, during the CMAP Transportation Committee meeting earlier this year, IDOT confirmed they are no longer pursuing the design previously presented as a recommended preferred alternative. Because of this, the project description included in the draft RCP benefits report appendix, which historically has served as a static documentation of where the project stood when we evaluated it, that description no longer reflects the most current understanding of the project. So given that feedback, CMAP staff will update the project description in that appendix so that it matches the description already included in the priority investments chapter of the RTP. CDOT and IDOT are currently revisiting the project scope. They have both committed to future public engagement opportunities that will follow their efforts to continue to study the corridor and consider alternatives. All partners involved want to ensure the public can continue to weigh in and help shape the future of mobility along the lakefront in this important corridor. We also heard many requests to reclassify the project as visionary. At this time, CMAP is not recommending that reclassification. The reason is pretty straightforward. Visionary projects is a term that we use to describe projects that were automatically unconstraining due to one of two conditions. One, it was a project idea that was submitted that doesn't have an implementing partner who is responsible for actually building the project. So that would be one reason. We want to make sure you create a space so people are aware of the idea, but we need buy-in from the implementer before we would include it. The other reason is an implementer might have a project idea that they want to share, but they're not ready to commit to it. But since this is a process meant for us to have a line of sight to what's being planned in the region, it's a way for implementers to share, hey, here's an idea we have. We want to put it out there for the public and for other implementers and other stakeholders to consider it and be aware that it's being considered. So those are the two reasons why you would list something as visionary. The North DuSable Lakeshore Drive project does not meet either of those criteria. So that's why we're still keeping it as a RTP project listed on the constraint list. Okay, so with all of that, now I want to get into a few of the logistics. So we welcome public comment, both from people attending here in person, as well as those joining us on Zoom. I do want to note, as you heard earlier, that this hearing is being recorded. We will begin with speakers who are here in the room and who have submitted a speaker card. After those speakers conclude, we will move to participants in Zoom. If you are joining us virtually, please use the raise hand feature to enter the queue. If you need assistance, feel free to note it in the Zoom, I don't know if it's a chat or a Q&A chat. Okay, yeah. I do want to note we have received over 1,800 public comments during the official comment period that closed last Friday. And we have numerous individuals who have indicated they want to provide comment both in person as well as online. So because of this high level of interest, we want to ensure everyone has an opportunity to speak and share feedback. So we ask that each speaker keep their remarks to 2 minutes or less. We may, depending on if we have an influx of additional participants between now and 4:30, we may have to limit that even more to try to make sure we have room for everybody to speak. So again, we'll work with, or we'll continue with in-person speakers first, followed by Zoom participants. Thank you again for everybody for your patience and for helping us maintain a respectful place that allows all voices to be included. For those joining on Zoom, we will call you once in-person speakers have concluded. If we do have folks trickle in person after we've gotten to the Zoom comments, we'll try to get them in as soon as possible. So with that, we look forward to hearing your insights on the Regional Transportation Plan, the Transportation Improvement Program, and the Air Quality Conformity Determination. Your feedback is essential to strengthening this plan ahead of finalization. So with that, let's start with our first speaker. When I say your name, please come up to the podium. I'll also call out the name next person in line to be on deck so we can keep the flow moving. So the first person we have, and apologies with pronunciation, I will try my best, but if you could say your name when you get to the podium, just to make sure we have it correct for the record, it would be much appreciated. So the first name is Rohit Agarwal. Oh, Holly Bird is second.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. You said my name fairly correctly, Rohit Agarwal. I'm a resident here in Chicago in the 11th Ward. You called it. My comment is related to Appendix E and the paragraph about North DuSable Lakeshore Drive, which I believe is RCP 12120. Thank you for clarifying what the language preferred alternative meant. I just want to reiterate that we want to make sure that clearly no preferred alternative currently has been chosen. But also, if there is any default plan, it should not be simply a reconstruction of Lakeshore Drive as is. I believe that the current design of the lakefront and Lakeshore Drive is a very 20th century approach, which worked in the past, but will leave us stuck in that past if we don't update it and move forward. Clearly, I looked in the RTP that Appendix D repeatedly lays out from public feedback what folks' priorities are, which are transit, cycling, walking, access, safety. The current design of Lakeshore Drive as a highway does not serve any of those priorities. So I would strongly recommend that CMAP adopt within the RTP a default that includes a redesign of Lakeshore Drive and the lakefront that will over time reduce the size, the speed, and the volume of traffic that's on the highway and prioritize the lakefront for every other use, for recreation, for access, for folks to be able to use the space safely, comfortably, and enjoyably without having to drive, and would also in the future prioritize transit. Current default only has bus lanes on the ramps, not on the drive itself. I think that's inadequate. So I would strongly recommend that CMAP within the RTP adopt a default that it prioritizes transit such as bus, and over time has a plan to reduce the size and volume of traffic on Lakeshore Drive and eliminate it as a highway. Thank you. Yeah.
Next up after Holly will be James Allardyce.
Hi, I'm Holly Bird. I'm the co-chair for Sortition USA in Chicago. We are a group of thoughtful Chicagoans who care a lot about our lakefront. And we want to encourage the board to consider looking at ways to solve this problem as in partnership with the people. We are looking for civic assembly. This would be like a group of us getting together with all the experts and solving these problems together through our disagreement and deliberation. So to us, we've seen this in other cities, large projects like this that are really contentious, that are high profile and are going to affect all of us because it's public land use for generations. So looking at those problems in 3 other cities recently, they've used civic assemblies to solve these problems, these gridlocked issues. And I think that's an opportunity that Chicagoans would really appreciate. We've sent you a letter that outlines those cities and what they've done. And we want to invite you to entertain that possibility of partnership with us. We know a lot of national organizations that facilitate civic assembly. And I know the Chicagoans and organizers and activists who care about this would feel heard. The public input that you offer us here is by far the most impressive. I've been to a lot of meetings, and this feels like we're being heard. But this is a way to really offer the people an opportunity to work with the experts and understand all the issues and trade-offs together. So we really encourage you to entertain the civic assembly idea and hear our voices all together. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have James coming up, and then T. Callahan is on deck.
Hello, my name is James Allardyce. So while Lakeshore Drive exists, heavy traffic will always be directed to the lakefront. Chaos will always spread from Lakeshore Drive to surrounding streets and neighborhoods and residential areas. Noise, pollution, literal deaths, and delays will always be a daily part of the lakeshore. Buses, ambulances, pedestrians, cyclists, and even drivers will always experience less reliable travel. Without Lakeshore Drive, regional through traffic is no longer drawn to the lakefront. The entire corridor becomes calmer, quieter, and more predictable. Walking, biking, transit, and local access become the primary focus. The roads that remain are more reliable for emergency vehicles, buses, and people who truly need to drive. No amount of money can eliminate the chaos caused by Lakeshore Drive, while Lakeshore Drive continues to attract large volumes of traffic into this corridor. The only lasting solution is to remove the source of chaos and redesign the lakefront around people rather than car movement. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have T. Callahan and then Jordan Picorni on deck.
My name is T. Callahan. I'm a resident of the First Ward and a frequent user of the lakefront. I'm here supporting Better Street Chicago. I appreciate your initial comments about the language in the regional transportation plan, but I want to echo what a few folks have said, and I expect we'll hear more, that no preferred alternative does exist and that language can be a little misleading. Both State Bill HR 438 as well as a June 2024 letter signed by 14 alderpeople representing a majority of which represented the North Lakeshore front, the lakefront, called for both a reduced footprint and investment in transit, cycling, and pedestrian infrastructure. Plans to widen, straighten the road, and introduce more expressway features directly contradicts the democratic goals expressed by the public. And that's to say nothing of the evidence that measures like this just demonstrably worsen over time. And the future is what we have our sights set on. It was just a couple of weeks ago that Chicago experienced some of the worst air quality, period, that we have seen in decades. Issues that are going to be exacerbated in the decades to come, as well as heat domes. Building wider roads and increasing vehicular traffic is only going to worsen issues like this. We need to be forward thinking. Redefining the drive, emphasis on redefining, is a unique and historic opportunity to celebrate Chicago's existing legacy of boulevards while demonstrating both to existing residents as well as visitors that we have our sights set on a more beautiful version of our city, as well as a more beautiful version of the future. So thank you for taking time to hear public comment, and I hope you take all of these into account when we reconsider how to actually redefine North Lakeshore Drive.
Thank you. So we have Jordan and then Ellen S. On deck.
Thank you. My name is Jordan Picorni. I thank you so much. I speak to you today on behalf of the High Speed Rail Alliance and our members. My comment pertains to regional rail and the Regional Transportation Plan. The goals outlined in the plan are great, but they will not be achieved without an intentional effort from CMAP and its collaborating agencies to orchestrate a dramatic mode shift from highways to railways. The key to this outcome is the electrification of Metra by overhead catenary, which would improve regional connectivity, reduce our carbon emissions, and lay the foundation for hourly intercity rail service to and from Chicago, including high-speed rail. Priority should be given to routes whose existing circumstances make them prime candidates for this electrification, such as the UP North to Kenosha, the UP Northwest to Harvard, the Rock Island to Joliet, and extending the Metro Electric District, which is our region's most underutilized yet brilliant transportation asset, to Champaign. For that matter, the proposed O'Hare Express train should be built on a separate electrified right-of-way alongside the existing right-of-way and continue on to Barrington. Absent from the current form of the Regional Transportation Plan are any meaningful strategies toward this transformational rail electrification. The plan falls short by continuing to prioritize highway expansion projects in a region whose population growth is projected to slow down and stagnate. Furthermore, relying on the promise of electric vehicles to meet our decarbonization targets is like patching up a breaking dam with a Band-Aid. In the face of a worsening climate crisis, I urge the board to make a more concerted effort to get people onto high-quality mass transit and to electrify our regional rail network. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Ellen, and then up next is Ashley Dodson.
Hi, my name is Ellen Steinke, and I appreciate you guys fixing the Appendix E wording and about the proposed alternative. I would like to ask, what Chicago icon kills 10 people or more per year? Is it the Bean or the Sears Tower? It's Lakeshore Drive. And a lot of people say we can't change Lakeshore Drive. It's too iconic. And if the Bean killed 10 people a year, wouldn't we at least consider adjusting it so it didn't kill people? Another thing about the drive that I found out recently is that our Lakeshore and Montrose Bird Sanctuary is a bird migratory pattern, and highway noise is hugely harmful for wildlife, and it's harmful to people. Our lakefront has some of the most polluted air in the city because of the drive, and part of this RTP is improving air quality. It also is a source of highway runoff that's right next to our water supply. And so I just think, especially with the wildfires and the smoke that hung over our city, that made it such that Chicagoans couldn't even leave their house for 2 days. Chicago should be making choices that are climate smart and climate resilient, and investing in things like highways or parking garages or things like that that enforce and support car dependency might just seem like normal everyday status quo decisions, but each decision is a choice that fuels and entrenches the climate crisis. So I think we need to be serious, not just about the gem of our city, the lakefront, and how we keep people safe on it and nature safe and make it the best it can be, but also think about the future and the generations to come and the climate and how we can live. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ashley, and then on deck we have Sebastian Bowen.
Hey, I'm Ashley Dotson. I'm a resident of, oh, thank you. Oh, while she's doing that, I'm a resident in the Loop, and I actually moved to Chicago specifically because it is a walkable city and a transit one, which is very rare in America. Some of my comments actually were addressed earlier, so I appreciate that and appreciate the opportunity to have public comment. But I did want to emphasize that the plan as it's currently written for the regional planning does seem to sound like it recognizes that we should be moving away from car dependency and that we should be moving towards transit, but a lot of the plans just seem to be like we should just build more highways and maybe do the bare minimum for trains. So I would like to ask that a lot of the visionary status transit-oriented development in there actually receive levels of at least the idea of how much the funding will cost. We have an idea on where to move for that, and they can be unblocked during the next cycle to discuss. And I at least would like to personally ask that we look at something like a Lakeshore Drive or a Lakeshore transit line, because like a lot of the train lines are currently built for the old 9-to-5 style. All we're doing is getting somebody to work, but that's not how the transit system is currently being used and how it should be used if we actually want people to go, everywhere. So that is all of my comments. So thank you.
Thank you. So we have Sebastian, and then next up will be Dr. Chloe Groom.
Hi, I'm Sebastian Bowen, and I'm a resident of the 35th Ward in Logan Square. And just wanted to say thank you for having us speak. And 12 express buses utilize Lakeshore Drive. Its current format holds these services back by allowing them to get stuck in traffic along the rest of private vehicles. But buses are much more space efficient. IDOT's own study on the corridor says that 60% of driving commuters on the Lakeshore Drive would prefer to take the bus if the service was more reliable. It is under common belief that directly addressing this aspect of the study would both improve traffic for commuters and park quality for patrons. So I, speaking on behalf of residents that love the lakefront, recommend that CMAP does what it can to underscore this aspect of the study. I understand that implementing new forms of transit in today's economic state is really hard. So I just ask that the new plan prioritizes what infrastructure we do have and allow it to perform at its best quality. So, thank you.
Thank you. So we have Dr. Groom, and then next up will be James Anderson.
Thank you. My name is Dr. Chloe Groom, and I'm happy to be here this afternoon. I have a pretty simple question for everyone in attendance, which is, do I look like I want to cross 8 lanes of traffic to go to the beach? No. And actually, a couple months ago, I went to Rogers Park for the first time, and it's a dream. It's so cute. If you haven't been to Rogers Park, you have to go. I bring it up because Lakeshore Drive doesn't go through Rogers Park, and you can walk straight from a cute little coffee shop, or in my case, a cute little provisions store that had like little soaps and wine and stuff, and you can just go to the beach. It's incredible. I know that we can't just remove Lakeshore Drive, but as everyone else has pointed out, the way that it is now is not working for Chicago or Chicagoans. I want to also add that tire particulates are linked to Alzheimer's in early studies, which not a fan. We also know already that tire particulates kill salmon within hours of exposure. Electric cars still famously use tires. And if you think about all the cars every day going down Lakeshore Drive, it's more than just the tailpipe emissions. It's tire particulates. It's, as Ellen mentioned, 10 people dying a year. At what point do we say enough? At what point do we recognize that we have the technology to move past a 20th century mode of transportation? I hope that someday, and again, I'm encouraging CMAP and IDOT and CDOT, everyone involved in this project, to think about how we look at factories in the middle of cities 100 years ago, and hopefully that we look at highways the same way. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have James up, and then after that, there'll be Bailey Plava.
My name is James Anderson. I live in Chicago in the 27th Ward on the west side, and I wish to urge the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning to prevent or discourage any plan to build a highway on the Chicago lakefront. I'm not an expert on the arcana of this organization and what it means for a project to be prioritized or constrained or any of the words that you use, but my wish is that no money be recommended or enabled for DuSable Lakeshore Drive for any plan other than to tear the highway down and not replace it. You may hear people say Lakeshore Drive is beautiful. This is from the viewpoint of people being inside a car looking out at our city and lakefront. For people not in cars, Lakeshore Drive is ugly. It's an eyesore. Stand at Ohio Street Beach or in a tunnel underneath the drive and look at it. It's an atrocity. It's dangerous. There are, on average, 10 fatalities a year on Lakeshore Drive. There are 10 crashes every day. It's dirty, it's stinky, it's noisy, and it's a horrible obstacle to have to surmount if you're a pedestrian or a bike rider trying to access the lakefront. This highway separates the city from the lakefront, and it prioritizes cars over people on our city's most valuable public real estate. The Redefine the Drive project is a once-in-a-century opportunity to undo the vandalism that Lakeshore Drive has visited upon our lakefront since the 1930s. Unfortunately, engineers began this project with the assumption that the existing 170,000 daily car trips must be accommodated, and it would be great if the road was so awesome that it could induce even more motor vehicle traffic. We don't want that. The lakefront is no place for a highway. We must depave Lakeshore Drive, and that's why I'm asking you, Mr. Chairman, and the members of this board, please do not set up the IDOT highway plan for funding.
Thank you. So up next, we have Bailey, and then after that, Dana White.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Bailey Pleva, and I'm a 47th Ward resident who visits the Lakefront Park and trails every day. Even today, the amount of traffic pushed through this corridor makes it hard and uncomfortable to reach the lakefront, a space that belongs to all of us. I'm asking CMAP not to advance the North DuSable Lakeshore Drive project as currently described in the Regional Transportation Plan. The RTP still presents a recommended preferred multimodal roadway alternative, even though the sponsoring agencies have stepped back from that design. The plan should reflect the project's actual status. I understand this reflects a static historical state, but there should be clear communication that reflects it is no longer the preferred status. What's most concerning is how far the historical preferred alternative strays from the project's own stated goals: prioritizing transit, enhancing parks, preserving boulevard character, and improving access for people walking, rolling, and biking. Instead, it would lock in an 8-lane expressway through a lakefront park with no meaningful transit investment and no reduction in the drive's footprint. Public opposition has been overwhelming. Thousands of residents, community groups, and local elected officials have consistently called for a greener, safer, more transit-oriented lakefront. Chicagoans want a corridor designed for people, not a highway designed for speed. Our lakefront is the city's defining public asset. Advancing a highway expansion here would move us in the wrong direction. I respectfully ask CMAP to appropriately communicate the discontinuity of the preferred alternative language so this corridor can receive the thoughtful, community-driven process it deserves. Thank you.
Thank you. So next we have Dana, and then after that, Sedona Jolly.
Hi, my name is Dana White. I am a resident of Uptown in the 46th Ward, and I live just a block and a half from Lakeshore Drive. So I get to enjoy all the noise pollution, which is linked to heart disease, higher blood pressure, stroke, many different health outcomes. But I want to tell a story. There's this friend of mine, a cyclist, a safe streets advocate, and a driver. And 2 years ago, he told me that he had received a ticket on Lakeshore Drive for driving 60 miles per hour in a 40-mile-per-hour zone. He felt like he didn't deserve it. And that's because he was going with the flow of the traffic at the time. He was driving the same speed limit as everyone else. And I have to admit, I've also sped down Lakeshore Drive. And I'm willing to bet that every person in this room who has driven on Lakeshore Drive has sped at least 5, if not 10 or more miles per hour over the speed limit. An 8-lane highway tells us that this is a place you're supposed to drive fast, and it almost feels wrong not to. So I'm glad to hear about the edits to the appendix. At the same time, I think we can do better, and we can prioritize the regional transportation's plan's own stated priorities. What would it take for us to build a Lakeshore Drive that actually encourages connections between people and places, encourage multimodal options, and reduce VMT, which is also a stated goal in the regional transit plan? How can we increase safety, reduce pollution, encourage economic prosperity? This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for us, so I implore the agency to go back to the table, engage community members and leaders once again to redefine the drive and not just reconsider it. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have Sedona next, and then after that, Kyle Lucas.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sedona, and a couple months ago, I made a video about my love for the lakefront, and that video got over 60,000 views. The lakefront in Chicago is so special. I'm from Cleveland, and we didn't have the same proclamation that the lakefront should be free and open to the public, and it is currently covered with miles and miles of a private airport for the insanely rich. So this is a step up for sure. But I think that we are at a point where we can do so much more. The lakefront is the way that it is because of planning decisions 100 years ago that have been maintained and protected since then. And here is our opportunity to do better, not just for people, but for the planet and for future generations that we might never see. Chicago has two main impacts of climate change. The first is the heat island effect, which is exacerbated by concrete and asphalt and impermeable surfaces, as well as flooding, which is caused by impervious surfaces and right next to our water, where you will have sewage going into the place where we swim and drink. And not just us, also this is a habitat for many native species. I was walking down the lakefront and I saw a snapping turtle. I've never seen one in the wild before. And I'm like, this is crazy. It's literally right here. So what does it look like to plan for a future that we want to live and we want our children and grandchildren to live in? What does it mean to do we want to show our kids that we prioritize 8 lanes of a highway over more space for people to convene and express and love the joy of summer and winter and nature in the city? No, we can do so much better. Also, I think it would be great if the Metro Electric was extended all the way north, if that is possible. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Up next, we have Kyle, and then after that, Alex Thrush.
Good afternoon. My name is Kyle Lucas. I'm the Executive Director of Better Street Chicago. We have been organizing around DeSable Lakeshore Drive since the inception of our organization, and many of us who are involved since even before that. And that's because we believe that Chicago deserves better than the status quo. And what we have seen presented from IDOT and from CDOT so far in this process is actually worse than the status quo. I really appreciate that it was mentioned about how people feel like they can drive so much faster. It is actually written into law that we can't have a road that goes more than 45 miles an hour. But IDOT has presented a road that is designed for 45 miles per hour because they wrote that number down on a piece of paper and said it's designed for 45 miles per hour. But we know that the road will encourage people to drive even faster than they do today. It's not enough for us to just slap some red paint down on the road and then say, okay, now it's transit prioritized. If it's still a highway, we are urging everybody to consider what it would mean to transform our lakefront, what it would be to actually have a real boulevard where people aren't going down 70 miles per hour down the lakefront, but where it's actually creating a real different atmosphere. You know, I think when we're talking about transit priority, there's a lot of considerations that we haven't seen within this current process. We think about the 147, the 146, the 151, but a lot of people don't realize that Western buses, the Clark bus, many other buses from way further out use Lakeshore Drive every day to provide more reliable service. But if they get stuck on Lakeshore Drive in traffic, then they can't actually make up for a lot of the lost time that they're trying to make up for. So this is far-reaching beyond what the project scope currently delivers, and we encourage CMAP to convene IDOT with advocates to really reimagine the future of the lakefront. Thank you.
Thank you. So next we have Alex, and then after that, Brett Annunziato. Thank you.
All right. Hello, my name is Alex Thrush, and I live in South Loop. The Regional Transportation Plan outlines a lot of important priorities, which cannot be met if Lakeshore Drive is rebuilt as it is now or in a similar way. The lakefront needs more public green space, more public transit, and fewer private motor vehicles. If you build it, they will come applies to public transit just as much as it does to highways. Just as an example of what's possible, Northerly Island used to be an airport, and now it's a beautiful public park. That's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you. So next we have Brett. Apologies again. And then after that, we have Fred Kapler.
My name is Brett Annunziato, and I live in the 43rd Ward. I normally like to speak with PowerPoints, which is not available to me today, but I think everyone here is familiar with the wonderful rendering of the preferred alternative. And I just wanted to make a comment that something unintuitive is going on here that I think would sap the vibrancy from the lakefront beach that we currently have. And that is, as we move the beach from Oak Street here deeper into the lake to provide more room for highways, but also this park, it does create a lovely rendering. But if you look at what this actually achieves on Google Maps, Google Earth, you see that it's creating an additional 700 feet of separation from the city to the lake, roughly half a mile. And in doing so, you will sap the foot traffic and the vibrancy of this lakefront in a way that does not achieve the objective of making this a real asset for the city. And I just think it's important to recognize that as we consider the vision. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, Fred.
Hello, I'm Fred Capeller. I'm a lifelong resident of Chicago, and I'm here to suggest we are missing an expressway and have been for some time. Back in 1977, the Eisenhower and the Skyway were called I-90, and we spent a couple $1 million and changed the names of the road signs to 290, and now we're blessed with 9094, which is the only place in the country that there's two interstates co-joined in a urban area for that distance, and it's killing us. Any kind of weather, any backup or whatever, and this city shuts down. You know, we've seen it many times. So I'm here to suggest that we build a $10 billion monstrosity past Midway and shorten this 22-mile distance to 16 miles and give interstate traffic a way to connect with all the intermodal rail yards and whatnot that are going to be here forever. And instead of, bouncing along 59th Street or Pulaski and Cicero, and give them an option. This is a $1 trillion economy around here, and a $10 billion expense over the course of 10 years is really a pittance. And so I'm here to suggest that we try and get this on ICE-T, which is a list of 100 expressway projects around the country that basically there's nothing that would duplicate building this thing and getting the south side and the west side up to snuff and being able to get from Schaumburg to Hammond in 50 miles instead of the 60 it takes today. The number of tires and fuel that would be saved would be, nothing else would fix that. No amount of widening the tri-state or the Eisenhower is going to do what this would. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Next, we have Alexa Tishka. After that, we'll move to Zoom.
Hello, I'm a member of the public and a member of the 46th Ward. I moved to Lakeview for the lake, and it's been really wonderful living a 15-minute walk from the lake. But I know, and this is as with a lot of other people's comments, this is with regard to the regional transportation plan. I know that I could live a 5-minute walk from the lake, and I know that I probably wouldn't need to walk underneath the highway in one of these really, really gross pedestrian tunnels. Can I see a show of hands? Who's been in one of those tunnels where it's like, there's water, you might see a rat, you don't want to step in the puddles? Okay, those are gross. I'm encouraging the regional transportation plan to, first of all, I'm really encouraged by the comments that you've said, everything that you've said so far, and then reading the regional transportation plan, it's really clear that we're all optimistic about the future of Chicago and about the future of Lakeshore Drive. I want to steer this in a way where I think we can do a lot better. And I'm really, really looking forward to providing more public comment in more of these sessions. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think that's all the in-person comments we have currently. Doug, do we have folks on Zoom? Or sorry, Aspen?
Yes, we do. Just one second. First up, we have Jordan Sherman. Go ahead, Jordan.
Hello. First off, thank you for the opportunity to speak, and thank you for already taking feedback into account with updating the language in the appendix. My name is Jordan, and I, like many Chicagoans, do not take our lakefront for granted. This redesign of North Lakeshore Drive is our once-in-a-generation opportunity to think boldly for the future of Chicagoans. And if we get it right, it could be remembered as significant and as a continuation of Montgomery Ward's fight to ensure that our lakefront remains forever open, clear, and free. This only happens, though, if we prioritize people and not private vehicles. This means a true boulevard design rather than a highway, where 95% of vehicles exceed its speed limits at times. A boulevard design with low speeds, serious transit prioritization, like with bus rapid transit, and safer crossings is the answer. Most importantly, this will increase safety as street designs play a far greater role in vehicle speeds than speed limits do, and the frequent crashes at high speeds that the current design produces puts our citizens in unnecessary danger. Our lakefront is beautiful and one of the best features Chicago has, but it can still be improved. A boulevard will decrease noise and pollution, which will allow lakefront goers to walk and bike along the drive without needing to scream to one another to hear, and without worrying about the toxic fumes and particulate matter we're ingesting from the cars flying by. This will also make it much more accessible by not requiring people to go out of their way to find the nearest dark, damp, usually flooded underpass or extremely loud overpass. World-class cities don't have wide expressways dividing them from their best waterfronts and natural areas, and we are a world-class city, so let's act like it together with a transparent and inclusive process to design a lakefront that truly belongs to the people. Thank you.
Thank you. And just for note for the folks online, if you want to join the queue, you just use the raise your hand feature and that will put you in the queue.
Next, we have Kalen Luciano.
Hi, I'm Calum Luciano. I am a resident in Lakeview, just like a block away from Lakeshore Drive, so very affected by this discussion. And thank you already for changing the language for Appendix E. I just want to say, moving forward, as IDOT and CDOT are exploring alternatives, as many other folks have mentioned, like the current plan was woefully against the interests of our community, and I really want to encourage, as IDOT and CDOT are exploring alternatives, that they do this through a transparent, community-oriented process so that, IDOT and CDOT don't come back in a couple of years with a plan that goes against what we've been demanding for decades now. And to be clear, that is dedicated transit lanes, better walking, biking infrastructure, and stronger connections between the neighborhood and the lakefront. Thanks.
Next, we have Peter Taylor. Peter, you're unmuted, or you should be able to talk.
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hello? Okay. Thank you, because I started talking. My name is Peter Taylor. I am the president of the Friends of the Major Taylor Trail. And I apologize because I'm late to getting these information, so I didn't review all of the literature, but I'm pretty sure this project isn't on it. Chicago is a city of big shoulders, and I've been hearing lots of big ideas and projects, and this is a small one. I want to talk about the intersection at 103rd Street and I-94. The corridor there was built for a previous time, which is past. Populations and institutions in the corridor have changed. Current configuration is highly dangerous for pedestrians and cyclists. I propose a side path from Cottage Grove Avenue to Torrance, and CMAP is the only agency that can pull in CDOT, IDOT, and the Cook County Department of Transportation to make this stretch of road ability to connect the communities of the 10th Ward and the 9th Ward, and you remove the barrier of free travel, and it's economic travel. As someone previously said, if you build it, you would come. Most of the residents in the area are probably smart enough to stay away from that area because it's so dangerous. Thank you.
Next, we have Andrew Harris.
Thank you for affording us the time to comment. My name is Andrew Harris, resident of the 48th Ward. For years, the citizens in the city of Chicago have consistently provided feedback that we want to prioritize our living world in public transit over personal automobiles and highways. Many of us live in the city due to its walkability and public transit system with a dedication to the living world. Personal automobiles as priorities are directly at odds with this central ethos relative to our city's motto of Urbis in Oro, City in the Garden. As stated in the draft RTP, highways are not only expensive to construct, but also to maintain. Let's actually redesign the drive in a sustainable manner, not continue the status quo of pollution, excess construction, and prioritization of the individual over the democratic community. Thank you very much to the committee for affording us this time. No more comment.
Next, we have Peter Jankowski. Peter, if you could unmute yourself, you can talk.
All right, we're going to move on to Teresa Hall.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. Well, I love living in Chicago without a car. I also really don't have a choice. Owning a car is extremely expensive and it would be far too cost prohibitive for me. And I know that there are many other people in the city who are not able to drive a car for many reasons, be it age, disability, anxiety, etc. Therefore, if Lakeshore Drive is designed for cars, it's not designed for everyone. Car-centric design really separates people because of not everyone being able to drive and also just because of the physical space that it requires. And I believe that the lakefront should be a place for all to be able to access and enjoy, and it should be a place of connection for our city. So I'm glad to see some of the changes in the plan that are transit, pedestrian, and bike friendly. And I encourage you to continue to design for people and not cars. Thank you.
Next, we have Garland Armstrong.
Yes. Hi, it's Garland Armstrong. How's everyone doing in the Chicagoland area?
We're doing great.
All right. I'm Garland Armstrong, formerly of Elmwood Park in Des Plaines, now living in Des Moines, Iowa, and also a former CMAP member. I just would like to suggest, especially for North Lakeshore Drive, concerning especially what happened in the blizzard of 2011 when there was so much snow on there, and especially with the cars and the buses getting stuck on there. So I think y'all need to make sure to upgrade, especially Lakeshore Drive, if y'all, and also the rain too, because my biggest concern, if there's a flood, like if y'all have a flood or snow there, how will y'all make sure that all the residents there, especially on Lakeshore Drive, to make sure that they want to get well prepared for it, because that could be an issue. And especially when the buses are turning, getting off, like the 146 from going on Belmont to Marine Drive, and the 147 going from Foster to Sheridan, making a right turn. We got to tell those car drivers to back up a little bit, because those big 18-wheeler buses are turning right. So I think we need to make a suggestion for that to all of them from all walks of life, and making sure that the pedestrians have the safety to understand that they have the right of way. Some of them can't even see or can't hear normally. So people with disabilities. So that's my suggestion. And tell that to everyone there so that they can be well prepared for it in the near future. And God forbid, we don't want the same thing happening again in the next century or something like that. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Garland.
Next, we have Leo Montz.
Hi, my name is Leo Mounts. I am a resident of Uptown in the 46th Ward. Originally, I'm from Indianapolis, and I still go to Indianapolis every month to visit my mom. I am car-free, and I have taken the Amtrak train to Indianapolis before. Recent experience I had with that was that it was delayed for several hours while the passengers were not able to get food or even get off to go to the bathroom. So, needless to say, now I take the bus, which, as we've seen, comes with its own problems. The Regional Transportation Plan outlines great emerging goals, but these goals cannot be met without the dramatic mode shift that only electrified trains can create. And the bad news is the plan doesn't do all that much to make competitive trains a reality. It does give a shout out to Metro Regional Rail, but it doesn't lay out a strategy for building it. Amtrak's Chicago Hub Improvement Program, CHIP, gets a big mention, but CHIP's goals are too modest to have the needed impact. The most important, the Transportation Improvement Plan lays out the foundation for regional rail, including upgrades to several metro lines, but none of them have any substantial work in progress, nor have they been funded. I hope that we can have a regional transportation plan that that provides for modern electrified rail. Thank you.
Next, we have Kate Yanis. Sorry, Kate Yanis.
Thank you. My name is Chris, and I live with my fiance near Foster and Lakeshore. We plan to have children here. We do not plan to have a car here. We still haven't heard any real info for almost 2 years, and we still have no info on how they're redefining the drive.
Start fucking talking.
Hello?
We can still hear you.
Okay, I heard someone else in here too. Wasn't sure. But we still have no idea what IDOT is doing. We don't know how they're redefining. They came out with a bunch of plans and never talked at all to residents for 2 years. Now that everyone is showing up these meetings and saying how much their plans suck, they're saying that they're doing something different. We have no idea how they're actually doing anything different. So CMAP needs to commit to only advancing a plan from IDOT that increases the focus on transit and park of the lakeshore and not of the drive, not retaining or expanding the highway, turning it into a transit focused and local traffic, but not a commute highway for people that live on the North Shore to the Loop. Chicagoans and all their people have spoken out a lot for multiple years that we do not want more doubling down on Lakeshore Drive as a highway. As one of the other speakers said, their new plans would give maybe a little more beach, but also add a huge distance on top of what the drive already does, pushing people in the city away from the lakeshore. The buses also, I've used them to commute. Gridlock from personal car traffic makes the bus less reliable, and I usually end up not taking the bus. I would take the bus if it was actually usable and if there was a dedicated lane along Lakeshore Drive. We need to focus on the future, not on the past, and CMAP needs to actually commit to whatever IDOT comes out with, only advancing it if it focuses on transit and park along Lakeshore Drive and not on retaining, expanding, and doubling down on this failed highway plan. Thank you. Also, Jordan Picorni and Metra support that as well.
Next, we have John Mayer.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, thank you. First, I just want to thank CMAP for allowing this process. My name is John Meyer. I live in the 2nd Ward here in Chicago. So I specifically, like many people, I specifically moved to Chicago because of the public transit access, the walkability, and that's what makes Chicago great for me, in my opinion. Like others have mentioned, I think that this preferred alternative for Lakeshore Drive, it does not really take transit users seriously. I think that bus-only on-ramps will not make much of a difference as these buses are just going to get stuck behind, more often than not, single occupancy private vehicles. And they're already clogging this lakefront highway. So I think we need to go back to the drawing board with that and have bus priority lanes, light rail going down the entirety of this drive, which should be converted into a boulevard, in my opinion. I think this is a once in a generation opportunity to change Lakeshore Drive so it serves all road users and not just those in private vehicles. And just a quick mention about rail, I also really support funding more rail projects. I think that rail is woefully underfunded in Chicago and throughout the country. So I think that electrification should be part of any plan for infrastructure going forward. And also, this would, of course, pave the way for speed rail potentially in the future. Thank you very much, and I appreciate your time.
Next, we have Brandon W.
Hello. My name is Brandon Willis. I am a homeowner and resident of the 46th Ward, the north end of Lakeview. I echo a lot of the responses that come up from the speakers today around actually redefining what Lakeshore Drive looks like. I wanted to specifically dial in on the transit issue as a primarily a transit rider going on the Lakeshore Drive Express buses. I can tell you it's the as is a miserable experience if you leave anytime close to rush hour. And knowing that the 136, 135, and various other buses on the north side and far north side are using this stretch of Lakeshore Drive, we really need to make sure that whatever plan puts transit at the forefront, reduces the single occupancy vehicle traffic, especially considering how much of these transit vehicles are used for our medical personnel going to River North for life-saving surgeries and medical care. I think that we really need to be taking into account the economic benefits, but also the human impacts of a surgeon getting to the hospital late because he is taking the bus, right? And I think that we have the opportunity now to really make sure that whatever is proposed and whatever is funded and supported really supports both the people that live in these neighborhoods accessing the beach, supports the jobs, and supports the users of our transit who are, 180 times more efficient than these individual cars. If you look at one of these articulated buses, it's taking 100 plus people, and it shouldn't be blocked by individual cars who want to go 60 and a 40-mile-per-hour highway. So I want to make sure that whatever plan is supported puts transit first and puts the communities first. Thanks.
Next, we have John Paul Jones. You will need to unmute yourself, John.
Thank you so much. This is John Paul Jones. I'm with Roger and Inglewood, but also I'm with Sustainable Inglewood Initiatives, and we have a committee that works on the railroad matters as well, which is part of the Create Inglewood Together initiative. We're quite concerned about two things: the air quality questions that we believed on the conformity determinations that you have to make in your 5-year plan. And we want to make sure that CMAP takes real time to really take a deeper dive on freight operations and air quality associated with that and electrification in those sectors. We want to make sure that we do as much as we can to improve the air quality on the south side, and CMAP can play a big role with that. The second thing is public participation. The CRAE project been operating since early 1990s, yet the elements are separated in the conversations, and the community is far removed from the conversations about what's going on with this billion-dollar project. It's about time for CMAP to start using their public participation plan that they put together back in 2023 to put it to work and to make it happen in the CRAE program, that we begin to have a real conversation about what's possible in this industrialized project that they're pursuing. And CMAP can play a role with that. And we believe it's their responsibility to do such a thing as a national and a regional organization. The third thing, we want to encourage more TOD. The City of Chicago kind of goes back and forth with transit development activities. We believe we have much mass transit and bus lines in our district that will merit much more collaboration when it comes to transit development. We have a lot of vacant land that we need help to figure out how would be the best land use. And so we want to encourage that to happen. And in conclusion, I really appreciate this opportunity, and we'll be getting some letters ready to kind of conclude our statements. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Next, we have Matthew Truskowski.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, sorry about that. Hi. The RTP says to prioritize safety and public health. And part of this is it has the RTP has the goals of reducing the VMT vehicle miles traveled per household and increasing population near high frequency transit, which are extremely connected goals. I believe to move meaningfully towards these, all planners, including CMAP, need to realize that we need to be more visionary for transit and micro mobility, such as bicycles. We should also recognize that the automotive infrastructure we have is overbuilt, and that while much of it is decades old, it has been very heavily funded, whereas our transit infrastructure is at times over a century old and has at times struggled to maintain funding. Considering this, CMAP should really dial back on any suggestions about expanding roadways and instead focus on how to best utilize and maintain existing automotive infrastructure while working towards making other forms of transportation better supported to encourage people to use more fiscally and environmentally sustainable forms of transportation. So in short, I recommend that we be more aggressive on building transit, bike lanes, and disability access without wasting more resources than necessary on roadways. Thank you very much.
Next, we have David Bipps.
Bippis. Can you hear me okay?
Sorry about that. Thank you. Yep.
All good. Thank you for the chance to speak. My name is David Bippis, and I'm a resident of the Edgewater neighborhood in Chicago. I am fortunate to live about a 5-minute walk from the lakefront and not have to cross a highway to get to it. I'm here to urge CMAP to support removing Lakeshore Drive altogether. Chicago likes to think of itself as a leader in American infrastructure, but on this issue, we are far behind. Smaller cities have already done what we have not started. San Francisco removed the Embarcadero Freeway starting in 1991. Portland in Oregon removed Harbor Drive starting in 1974. Oakland, California removed the Cypress Street Viaduct starting in 1989. Chattanooga in Tennessee converted its Riverfront Parkway to a boulevard, completed in 2004. Milwaukee, Wisconsin removed the Park East Freeway starting in 2002. And there are countless other examples of projects in the United States where cities are removing their freeways further inland, not just on their waterfronts. Chicago has the largest and the most valuable lakefront of any city on the list that I just mentioned. We should be setting the example, not following it years or decades later. I ask CMAP to prioritize Lakeshore Drive removal in its regional planning process. Thank you.
Next, we have Connor Hannikin.
Hi, my name is Connor Hannikin. I am a resident of the 49th Ward. I also live about a 5-minute walk across the street from the lake. And I'm very grateful to not have to cross Lakeshore Drive or under a tunnel or anything like that. However, I do have to cross North Sheridan Road, and I realize this is an IDOT street, and unfortunately, it is very difficult to cross and dangerous to cross the street. There are cars taking very fast and sharp left turns onto resident roads. There is no bike infrastructure. The bus lanes are often blocked by cars, by private vehicles, and there's no enforcement or no plan to address these concerns of disabled and elderly residents, as well as any pedestrians or transit users. And I really push CMAP to force IDOT to look into this and, prioritize any traffic studies and simple improvements to extend cross times and expand the CATA's pilot of enforcing bus stops and various things like that. Thank you.
Next, we have Jeremy Adler.
Hi, thank you so much. My name is Jeremy Adler. I live in the 49th Ward up in Rogers Park. I bike on the path, I drive on Lakeshore Drive, I take transit on Lakeshore Drive, and I appreciate CMAP for holding this process and comment period. I would encourage offering additional comment periods in the future and maybe meetings offered outside of work hours. I'm focused on Lakeshore Drive here, and I'm happy to hear about the updates and that you are taking public comment into account. I encourage that as you remove the preferred alternative language to adopt a default that prioritizes transit safety and lakeshore access. To me, that can only really mean removing Lakeshore Drive, as a previous commenter said, and many other cities have done this with great success. And the plans we've been presented with so far are just very far from what we need. We have a literal once in a lifetime opportunity, and plans have been timid and short-sighted so far. We've heard overwhelmingly in the meeting today, in public comment period, and over actual years of feedback, that what we want is nothing close to what Lakeshore Drive looks like right now or what we're getting out of IDOT. So I encourage CMAP to have the courage to make a real difference here, to create a visionary future for the city, and to think in 100 years, how are the people of Chicago going to look back on these decisions? You all could be heroes, and I hope you have it in you. Thank you.
Next, we have Justin Stange.
So highways typically have about a 60-year lifespan. So if we were to rebuild the highway right now, we'd be seeing it, the next rebuild of it would be in approximately like the year 2086. Do we really want to be able to, or do we really want to stick ourselves in the current status quo until 2086? By that point, I'm still relatively young, by the elderly man. By that point, many other people who I'm sure are in this meeting are likely not going to be alive by the time the highway would be getting rebuilt. So we need to really rebuild it with the future in mind and not get ourselves stuck in an unpleasant situation for the next year. So I really push you to consider all the pedestrian connections and really deprioritize as a highway. Building highways is really should be a thing of the past, and a city like Chicago, we should be beyond that point. So I encourage you to think ahead when you build.
Okay, we're going to go back to Peter Jankowski. See if you can unmute yourself. All right, so that's it online.
Okay, we have 2 additional in person. Next up would be Sean Parks. And then after Sean will be Georgia Kutsinis.
Good afternoon. My name is Sean Parks, and I'm a resident of LaGrange Park, Illinois, and a student at the University of Notre Dame. I would first like to say that I support the previously stated comments about Lakeshore Drive, as the lakefront belongs to the people by right, not to cars. I was happy to see in the regional transportation plan that regional rail is considered a priority, but was disappointed that there were few tangible, specific ways that this goal would be achieved. As everybody is already aware, Metra and the CTA's rail network is a radial system that makes inter-suburb travel all but impossible. I endorse any and all circumferential routes, such as along Cicero Avenue or along the Indiana Harbor Belt Railroad. Furthermore, I want to emphasize the necessity of true overhead electrification, not just batteries, on as many of Metra's lines as possible. The Rock Island District, owned entirely by Metra, is the first obvious candidate for electrification. Metra should also strongly consider purchasing the UP North Line from Union Pacific, at least up to Lake Bluff, which is a segment that sees no more than 1 freight train per day on average. Closer to home, the mega corridor that is the I&M Canal, Santerre and Ship Canal, I-55, CN Railroad, and BNSF Railroad is an extreme barrier to all modes of transportation, including walking, biking, transit, and honestly, even driving. I would encourage CMAP to prioritize north-south crossings of this corridor for walking, biking, and transit, such as by extending Pace Route 330 to Midway Airport, or by increasing frequency on Pace Route 834 to connect these communities back together. These suburbs being car dependent should not be treated as a given in the regional transportation plan, but rather a problem that can be fixed with the right and target investments. Thank you.
Thank you. Up next is Georgia. And just a reminder for folks online, if you wanted to provide public comment and haven't yet, please make sure you use the raise your hand function, and that'll put you in the queue. If you are here in person and you would like to comment and haven't commented yet, please see Max over by the door. He has comment cards, and that'll get you in line. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Georgia Kusinis, and I am a cyclist, pedestrian, and driver, except not at the moment since someone totaled my car on Sheridan and Granville. I'm also a resident of the 42nd Ward on the Lake and have been for around the last 10 years. I'd like to first acknowledge and honor the memory of Alex Blasio, a teenage e-scooter rider who lost his life this week to a semi-truck on Western and Irving Park. And though I have a lot to say about the longest north-south artery of the city, this completely preventable death is paralleled by the city's continued prioritization of vehicular traffic throughout Chicago, but especially on the lakefront. I just want to say if an elderly person, child, teen, or person with disabilities has to find an access point, go through a wet, dark tunnel, or climb a bridge to get to the lake, then the city cannot say that the lakefront is for everyone, as the preceding planners have declared and designated. And if you spend any time on the trail, especially in the summer, obviously, as it exists today, it is too narrow and therefore unsafe for these groups as well and for everyone. I urge CMAP to envision Chicago in the year 3000, or with the trajectory of climate change, realistically the year 2100 or 2150, and model our new infrastructure after the likes of cities in, for example, Western and Northern Europe or East Asia. Frankly, I believe a lot of us are beyond tired of living in a city that is lethally loyal to its 1960s car culture. So now's the opportunity to re-envision the lakefront and destroy Lakeshore Drive. Thank you.
All right, going back to online, we have Dolores Pino.
Hello, thank you. I'm a resident of Edgewater, 48th Ward, and I live a block and a half west of Sheridan and a half a block north of Hollywood. And both of those are 4-lane, high speed streets, coming and going to the north edge of Lakeshore Drive. And it's a huge, huge amount of air pollution caused by all those tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of vehicles, gasoline burning vehicles every day. My apartment faces south, and I have on the window ledges, it's white paint and white ceramic tile in my bathroom. And I watch the buildup of the air pollution deposition, the visible air pollution on my windowsills, my white windowsills. And every 3 days, if I clean it every 3 days, there's more deposited, and it's like a dirty gray metallic, medium gray to dark gray, visible air pollution, like if you wipe it with a white cloth. And I haven't had it tested, but of course that's particulate emissions from the gasoline burning vehicles. And that's what we breathe into our lungs. And all the children who live around here and pregnant women, babies breathing that into our lungs. And I do support removing Lakeshore Drive and providing ways for people who live in the North Shore to commute to downtown without driving a private vehicle on Lakeshore Drive. Thank you.
Next, we have Paige Lovingson.
Hi, my name is Paige Ludvigson. I am a resident of Rogers Park. And in addition to ripping out Lakeshore Drive, we should be looking at reducing our highway lanes in the area overall. They're a huge, huge money sink, and we don't have enough to even maintain what we have now. Public transit is the most efficient option for moving large amounts of people, and so is freight transit. And electrifying both of these would be a huge benefit to everybody who lives around them and make them much quieter as well. This would be a great opportunity to reconnect communities that were divided when the highways were put in, and would be great for improving people's overall enjoyment of the city. Thank you.
Ethan Kirschenbaum is next.
Hey everyone, I am a supporter of taking out Lakeshore Drive. I grew up in the suburbs and I always thought that freedom meant the ability to drive wherever I wanted and see my friends. And I always wondered why our downtown was bad. And the reason was because you had to drive to get there every time and there was no ability to just reach it by walking. And I realized really that driving is much more of a prison that causes you to buy insurance, gasoline, wear and tear on the car. Not only that, but then you're also driving 2-ton machines that can kill people on impact. As we've mentioned, there's been 10 deaths on Lakeshore Drive this year, but car accidents and cars hitting pedestrians are one of the leading causes of deaths in the nation. Freedom is really the ability to get wherever you want, however you want, by walking, cycling, taking public transit, and able to get through the city in as quickly and efficiently as a way as possible. And as we've heard other people on this call mention, other cities have really transformed their cities to either add more green space or reduce the amount of highways. And those have all worked. Just to cite an example there, Paris reduced their cars by one day having no cars, and they reduced pollution by 40%. They've also reduced parking spots by 50,000 in that city and really helped reduce the overall traffic and stimulate the economy by people being able to walk around. So very in favor of giving the Lakeshore back to the people, because cities belong to the people and do not belong to the cars. Thank you.
Next, we have T. Whelan. T. Whelan. Okay, next we have Emily Huggin.
Hi, my name is Emily, and I'm a resident and homeowner of Chicago. And I'm not going to repeat exactly what everyone else has said in terms of the logistical benefits of tearing out Lakeshore Drive. I just actually want to provide a little story for myself and why I came here. So, one day, 3 years ago, I started biking on the Lakefront Trail. It's one of the first times I'd ever biked there. And I wondered what was different about this day. There was something, I had walked on it multiple times. I couldn't understand. And I realized it was because I could hear the birds and I could hear the water and I could hear kids laughing. And that day was Bike the Drive when there were no cars on Lakeshore Drive. And it was the day I fell in love with the city and the day that made me want the city to thrive. It was one of the happiest days of my life in this city. And one of the saddest moments of my life in this city was when the cars returned, when we chose not to hear the birds, not to hear the waves, and not to hear the laughter of our children any longer. We chose in that moment to continue to pollute and to continue to cause this destruction on our lakefront. Did our city collapse that day? No, I think it really thrived. So I just wanted to provide that little story, and I hope that urges you to make a good decision for us.
All right, we're going to try one more time with T. Whelan.
Yeah.
Yes, we can.
Essentially, I want to
encourage just the entire city to consider implications against just keeping Lakeshore Drive as it is. A lot of people have said that both just in history of the city and the U.S., Chicago has kind of been a leading on infrastructure, and how again just trying to go back to the same plan won't work. It'll just be going backwards in history instead of forward. Just the amount of people that could get to the lakefront, if more areas actually opened up, these people would allow again for both more festivals and other events to be possibly take place. Previously, all of the downtown area historically used to be like the parks. Downtown used to be parking lots. All of that was covered up with parks allowing for just huge events to as well as just so many people were able to enjoy the lakefront. And honestly, the Lakeshore Drive ended up becoming kind of a scar on that. This is the Lakeshore Drive is kind of a holdover from time when that was still more of a thing. All of that area was really hard. Again, it used to be a boulevard for essentially cruising. And at this point, it's defined as it's not a highway that's designed like a highway. Everyone who uses highways designs one. So I just encourage the city to actually consider the future.
Thank you for the comment. We couldn't really make out most of what you were saying. We do have it recorded, but we'd greatly appreciate it if it was possible to submit that comment in writing too, just to make sure we have it recorded accurately. But very, very much appreciate your comment. Do we have more online folks?
Yes, one more. Matthew Truskowski. Not sure what's going on.
Okay, we do have one more in person. Nate Hutchison, if you want to come up, this is we are approaching 4:30. That is the official end. We can continue on, but only for folks who are here before 4:30. So if you did want to provide public comment, please make sure you're raising your hand in the Zoom chat, or seeing Max in the back if you're in person, to make sure you get your comment card filled out. Thank you.
Is this on? Thanks. My name is Nate Hutchison. I'm a resident of Lincoln Square. It sounds like everyone here is in favor of a better future for our lakefront. I 100% agree. Question is, how do we get there? And we have a process that has a lot of strong opinions on all sides. And as soon as we start hearing comments from people who drive on the lakefront, that's where we run into the political problem that we need to solve. And so that's why I'm here as part of Sortition USA, the new Chicago chapter, to talk about a process called civic assemblies, where you have lottery selected citizens who are given the time and support to learn about an issue, to deliberate, understand the trade-offs between taking away lanes and adding more transit. How do we get to that point? Those are the conversations that need to happen in a different type of setting than what we've seen in the current process. So check out civic assemblies. You can go to sortitionusa.org and learn more about it, but I'd really urge CMAP to consider a new process like civic assemblies for, that's something we could get done in a couple years and come out with a stronger consensus at the end. Thank you.
All right. Neville Hemming.
Yes, can you hear me?
We can.
Great, thank you. Sorry, I'm doing this kind of in the middle of my workday at the office. Good afternoon. My name is Neville Hemming. I am the president of Neighbors of Edgewater and Uptown and a resident of the Edgewater community area and the 48th Ward. Throughout my entire life, I've experienced the drive in a number of different ways. I've walked around it, biked along it, rode transit on it, been driven in it as a child, and on rare occasions, I drive it now as an adult. Edgewater and Uptown bears a disproportionate share of the negative impacts of our region's entire transportation network, including the drive. Our ward is lined with our neighborhoods, both Edgewater and Uptown, are lined with major IDOT corridors, Sheridan, Broadway, Ridge, Foster, Irving Park. I'm probably forgetting a few given how many there are. This causes cut-through traffic by commuters who speed, roll through stop signs, and endanger our streets for our neighbors, especially our most vulnerable neighbors in mobility devices, children, and older neighbors. And it divides our neighborhood, not just from the lakefront, from ourselves. This is a once truly in a generation opportunity to reconnect our neighborhoods, in particular Edgewater and Uptown, improve transit, make walking and biking safer, and maybe most importantly, restore access to one of Chicago's greatest, if not the greatest public space that we have. My grandparents were born and raised in Chicago before the drive existed. My parents grew up with it. I have grown up with it, and I very much would like to be the last of my generation last of my family, that has to deal with this this terrible piece of infrastructure along our lakefront. Removal absolutely must be on the table as a serious option. Thank you.
Next, we have Stephen Sondheim.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good.
Stephen, are you still there? We can't hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I forgot, I don't know where I left off, but I live near Belmont Harbor. There's two major points I want to make that I think have been left out. $15, $20 an hour. I don't see it as that much of a problem.
Hey, Stephen, I'm sorry, you are cutting out. We haven't heard most of your comment. If possible, if you could submit that in writing, we can make sure we get it recorded. My apologies. Okay. I think that is everybody on Zoom. We don't have any more in person, right? Okay. Well, we are officially at 4:34. So we're at the end of the hearing. Thank you for your thoughtful participation today, for your engagement and helping to shape the future of transportation in Northeastern Illinois, and for contributing to the regional planning process. We truly do appreciate you showing up today, whether in person or online, for your thoughtful feedback. And we look forward to being able to take that in and incorporate it into our planning work and bring it to our board and MPO policy committee for consideration for adoption in October. So thank you all again. And the hearing is now adjourned. Thanks.